Example of selfless duty.
King Charles addressed Parliament for the first time since he became monarch.
With more on how crowds are honoring the late Queen Elizabeth, Isabel Rosales is live in London.
The Queen's flag-draped coffin currently rests at St. Giles Cathedral, and as we speak, Scots are in a single file line walking past that coffin, paying their respects. At the head of the coffin, the crown of Scotland, the oldest of the crown jewels, a symbol of her faith and her duty. Crowds of mourners gathered in Edinburgh, Scotland Monday to pay their final respects to Queen Elizabeth II.
Sort of a grandmother to us all. It's not just a loss of a monarch, or it's a loss of some, like a family member.
People line the streets to watch her coffin be moved from Holyroodhouse to St. Giles Cathedral, where she will lie until Tuesday. Her remains will then be taken to Buckingham Palace in London. Then on Wednesday, the Queen will lie in state at Westminster Hall until her funeral on the 19th. As crowds say goodbye to their beloved late Queen, King Charles III addressed Parliament for the first time since becoming king, saying, "I am deeply grateful for the addresses of condolence by the House of Lords and the House of Commons, which so touchingly encompass what our late sovereign, my beloved mother, the Queen, meant to us all." Meanwhile, leaders from across the globe are paying tribute to Her late Majesty.
She's reigned for all 7 Saudi kings since the founding of the kingdom in 1932. So it's a remarkable relationship.
And the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, arriving at the residence of the British ambassador and signing the condolence book. A period of mourning rippling across the world. And tomorrow, Princess Anne will accompany the coffin from Edinburgh to the Queen's place of birth, London. Wednesday, another big day. That is the day where Britons will have a chance to view the coffin and pay their final respects. The lie in state will happen for 4 days. The government already warning people that wish to do that the lines will be extremely long, possibly going overnight, and that there is tight airport-style security as well. Live in London, I'm Isabel Rosales reporting.
Breaking news regarding a national story with ties to Hawaii. Mark David Chapman, the man who shot and killed John Lennon, has been denied release. The New York Department of Corrections and Community Supervision says an interview with the Board of Parole was held on August 31st. The board's decision to deny parole with, quote, a hold of 18 months was just announced hours ago. Chapman's next appearance date is scheduled for February 2024. Chapman was convicted of murdering the famed Beatles member. Lennon was shot outside his luxury New York City apartment on December 8th, 1980. Chapman, who had a history of mental illness, was an out-of-work security guard living on Oahu with his wife. He was sentenced to 20 years to life in prison and has now been denied parole 12 times.
The owner of a vanity license plate that uses profanity to insult the Black Lives Matter movement is suing the city of Honolulu and state attorney general. Edward Adquina claims they're violating his civil rights by recalling the plate. Court documents show Adquina was approved for and paid for the license plate in January 2021, but after receiving complaints, the city ordered him to surrender the plate. Until he does, he cannot renew his car registration and is subject to citation and seizure of property. Despite this, Adquina's attorney says his client is keeping the plate to send a message.
He wants to be able to express himself, which is what the statute allows. The statute allows that you can pick any 6 letters, up to 6 letters, in any combination that you want to convey a message.
Adquina's attorney says his client disagrees with BLM's positions and is using the letters as part of his business. The Honolulu City Council approved moving ahead with allowing city attorneys to file a lawsuit against the driver. City officials said they have upgraded the license plate screening process.
Well, as summer winds down, traffic to the different Hawaiian islands is shifting. Here's Howard Dykes with more on that.
All summer, the lower level of international visitors was offset by a lot more domestic visitors. But Oahu, hardest hit by absent Japanese guests, had a comparatively small bounce from the west coast. Neighbor islands got more, with Kauai getting by far the biggest percentage increase in arrivals. Kauai still has plenty, 57% more since September began than was the case in 2019. But the Big Island has now pulled ahead, 61% more visitors from the West Coast than before COVID. Both are getting well over 2,000 a day. Maui is up 235, although that represents 3 times the visitors some days.
News outlets in Japan say the country could completely lift its cap on incoming visitors next month. It recently raised this COVID cap to 50,000 arrivals a day. So a rule change like this really wouldn't have an effect on Japanese visitors to Hawaii. Currently, they're held back by one of the most unfavorable currency exchange rates in decades. After recent declines, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says there's a risk gas prices could rise again later this year. Yellen said the European Union will stop, for the most part, buying Russian oil this winter. And while this could cause a possible spike in oil prices, the U.S. and its allies are working on a price cap to address the risk.
Gas prices have been coming down now for almost the last 3 months. Last month in July, headline inflation was actually slightly negative, and we are addressing inflation.
Yellen went on to say despite higher food and energy prices, she's optimistic about the U.S. economy and emphasized that we're not in a recession. By the way, the average price for a gallon of gas in Honolulu is $5.19, according to AAA.
Now to the latest on Russia's war on Ukraine. CNN has exclusive access to a key town that Ukrainian forces have reached and are trying to reclaim. We want to warn you, the images in this story are graphic. Melissa Bell has more.
The tanks spoke to a hasty Russian retreat as Ukrainian forces swept eastwards over the weekend, triumphantly raising the flag over Kupiansk on Saturday. Local police forces providing CNN with exclusive access to a key town now meant to be under Ukrainian control. We still feel uneasy because we've been bombed for 4 days in a row, says Vasil, and nothing's certain yet. Which only became clearer as we headed further in to Kupiansk.
Aircrafts, helicopters, shells, everything.
A first artillery strike, too close for comfort, then a second, much closer. That was the sound of artillery landing just next to our car, our armored car. We had come into Kupiansk hoping to get to that flag to see where it had been planted only yesterday, but as you can see, this Sunday afternoon it's still the scene of some pretty fierce fighting. We've been hearing the sound of outgoing artillery fire. That was the sound of incoming. 2 hits directly targeting our car, says the policeman. Time to go back to what we'd come to see, those parts of Kharkiv region fully under Ukrainian control. Like Zaleznice, where after 6 months of occupation, Ukrainian investigators know all too well what they'll find. After Bucha and Borodianka that were under Russian control for only a month. Yes, according to our information, we are recording war crimes in almost every village, he says. This, the body of one of 2 civilians killed in late February. An early victim of the invasion and evidence now of what 6 months of Russian occupation have cost. Melissa Bell, CNN, Zaleznice, Ukraine.
All right, we want to switch gears here now, taking you live outside to get a check of your weather. Billy V's got your forecast today.
Surfers are happy. If they're headed out to the south-facing shores, they're going to find 7 to 10 foot surf. That means the high surf advisory is in effect for the south-facing shores of all Hawaiian Islands. West side is 4 to 6. East side is 5 to 7. There's some little bit of energy there from the ex-tropical cyclone called Kay. And as we take a look at the 7-day forecast real quickly, you can see Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday are going to be pretty much the same. Nice weather.
More and more people are thinking about their environmental impact when they travel, and now hotels are taking notice. Michael George gives us a tour on what could be the country's first net zero carbon emissions hotel.
The first thing you'll notice about New Haven, Connecticut's Hotel Marcel is the unique architecture. The famed architect Marcel Breuer designed it in the 1960s as an office building, but the inside has received a modern-day makeover.
So what are we looking at here? So this is the battery room for Hotel Marcel's microgrid.
Architect and developer Bruce Becker designed this hotel to be all electric. It's self-powered using no fossil fuels, and it also aims to be the first net zero carbon emissions hotel in the nation.
Why was this important to you to make this happen? I wanted to make sure that if I'm going to make a building that's going to be here for a while, that not only will it be beautiful, but it will be beautiful for the environment.
Every inch of the hotel is designed with the environment in mind. Solar panels on the roof and parking lots keep the power on. Electric heat pumps and triple glazed windows moderate the temperature. There are electric car chargers, an electric shuttle van. Even the kitchen has an electric range instead of a gas one. While all this may seem expensive, Becker says it pays for itself.
It also keeps our energy costs down. If you're not using electricity, you net that out, you don't have an electric bill, so that helps financially.
Since opening in May, the no footprint approach is working, bringing in customers like Edward McLaughlin.
Environmentally, it's highly appealing to me to be somewhere that leaves no footprint on our environment. It's incredibly important.
Becker says it will take a year of testing to confirm his building is truly net zero when it comes to carbon emissions. But he believes others could follow his lead and create a new standard for hotels in the future. Michael George, CBS News, New Haven, Connecticut.
All right, joining us right now in the H&N Digital Center is Tamarind Hall, who's celebrating a 4th season. She's going to be on right after us at 1 p.m. on KHNL. Tamarind, how's it going? Aloha.
Aloha. You got a hard act to follow right after you.
Oh, thanks. Oh. Already got me blushing. Thanks so much, Tamarind. Well, you know what? I'll just get right to it. I just read an Associated Press article about your show, and it said, quote, "It's not a well-oiled machine, and that's intentional." Go ahead and explain that.
I love that. There's beauty in imperfection, right? I mean, I am now 52 years old. I've been a journalist for 30 years, and I get the desire sometimes to seek perfect, but that doesn't mean that it is right. I know that sounds really strange, but what I've learned is that there's beauty when I make mistakes. And I tell my team all the time, don't go back and edit it. I want people who are watching to see me. And that does not mean I don't have a lot of makeup on and fake lashes, and this is not my natural color. Don't get me wrong, Jonathan, but the intention and the heart, I want people to understand who are watching that this is me, and I want you to be you. When we started this show and when I created this show, I said, listen, I don't care what kind of chair you pull up. Know that you can pull up a chair to my table. We are at brunch, 2 mimosas in, and all of the people we don't really like are gone. And we're just friends talking and learning and inspiring and trying to live our best lives.
I don't know about mimosas, but how about some Mai Tais if you're here? Yeah, okay.
One drink I can make. So yes, you are absolutely right.
All right. Well, you know what? Let's make it a little bit serious here. I saw last week you were in Uvalde, Texas, right? And go ahead and describe what that experience was like, because that's something I haven't seen you out in the field remotely doing the show too much. Is that something more we'll see more of?
Well, the plan was always to go out remotely, but we had the shutdown and we're unable to travel. And now season 4, we're able to bring that part of the show to the audience. I was a journalist for 30 years. The majority of those years, I was a field reporter around the country. And so that's not unfamiliar to my background. And quite honestly, it's what I enjoy doing, being there, talking to people. So for the first time in 4 seasons, we were able to go on the ground, and we spent that time for 1 hour of the show in Uvalde, Texas. And it was important to me, Jonathan, to go there because it's the beginning of school, right? And I have a 3-year-old son, and we're all sending our children off to school. If you're a parent, for them, for those families, for that community, they face the question of, do we go back? How do we go back? Only 3 months. It's been just over 100 days since that tragedy. And there are many conversations, as we know, to be had, of response and gun control. All of those are very important and are conversations that must be had. But for me there this time, the conversation was focused on those parents who had to decide, can I say to my child, go back into the school and you'll be okay? And how to move forward. And their resilience was incredible. It turns out that the head football coach, and this is in Texas, of course, you know, Friday Night Lights, and the head football coach is from my same small town of Luling, Texas. And we spoke with him, all of his players, all of the kids in the high school returned. Many of them had siblings. So it is a chance for us to show resilience at the same time, though, not ignoring the unimaginable pain that these parents are still experiencing. And it was important for us to do that. And that's the show, Jonathan. You said, you know, we will laugh together and we will have fun and giveaways. And we're doing for the first time, you know, glow up makeovers and all of those great things you like about daytime, because it is supposed to be escapism. But the show is also real, and it's about life, and it's talking about what we talk about with our friends. And sometimes those conversations are difficult, but if we do it together, we can get through it together.
4 seasons, that's a lot of guests, a lot of interviews. As a journalist myself, I always appreciate the surprises. I love going into an interview and someone just knocks my socks off, surprises me completely, goes a different direction. What's the biggest surprise you've had so far?
Okay, that's a tough question, Jonathan, for a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
Like you, I'm a journalist and I read everything about our guests. I love studying. Part of the reason I think I'm a talk show host is I love people. I'm super curious about your background. So oftentimes I go into these interviews and afterwards people say, I can't believe you knew that much about my life. I can't believe you knew all of that. I think I am always surprised by how inspiring people can be once you start asking them questions. You know, I'm a superhero fan, so I love the origin story. And so when someone starts to talk about their origin story, you know, being a kid and watching a movie and saying, I can be that actor, or someone, you know, having tragedy and then turning that grief into a way to help others. I love that kind of story. I love those origins of who we are. How did you become Jonathan? How did you end up behind that microphone? Or how did you become a teacher? One of the things that we did in launching this season, there was this teacher who was so loved by her school district. They said, you know, she never takes time to take care of herself. And we flew her into New York and pampered her and talked about the journey of sacrifice that so many teachers go through. So I love that kind of thing.
All right, so for the last question, I'll flip it around on you. What's the little nugget of the Tamarind Hall origin story that you don't think people know about?
Wow. I don't think people realize how much of a country girl I am. You know, you're on TV and people see you and they see all of the trappings that come with being on television and the wardrobe. But I probably spent the first 5 years of my life with no shoes on, running up and down dirt roads, just being a kid in the country.
All right. Well, we already talked about Mai Tais and mimosas. So what's your favorite country comfort food? Mine's biscuits and gravy, hands down, favorite food. Miss Grandma's dumplings.
Mine is chicken fried steak.
Oh, definitely.
With lots of gravy and mashed potatoes. Okay, now why are you doing this to me?
I know.
Sorry.
Well, this is going to air at lunchtime, so we're seeing you right now on our show. This is now at noon. Your show's coming up at 1 p.m., and it's brand new time slot right here on KHNL. We're excited to have you part of this KHNL lineup. Thanks, Tamarind.
Thank you. Mwah.
What a sweet person.
She was lovely.
Yeah, had a great time chatting with her this morning.
That was
Very
great.
early this morning. Well, this is all part of a big lineup change here for your midday on KHNL. I don't know if you noticed, but right before This Is Now, there was this brand new show called NBC News Daily. We talked to Kate Snow about it last week. A number of other NBC staffers are joining her on this launch of this new show. It's going to air at 11 a.m. right before This Is Now every day. International news, national news, and I'll even be giving you a local news update in there as well.
Very cool.
Yep.
We have some cool video to show you guys coming up. This past weekend was opening weekend for the NFL, and Miami Dolphin fans were looking forward to some hot action, but not this kind. So 11 cars went up in flames outside the Dolphins' season opener at Hard Rock Stadium after police say a tailgating fan left a hot grill on under their car. What? Unfortunately,
Who does that?
Yeah, fortunately, no one was hurt, but the vehicles were not so lucky. Meanwhile, in other good news, Hawaii's Tua Tagovailoa led the Finns to a 20-7 win over the New England Patriots. He threw for 270 yards and a touchdown.
A lot of folks talking about him today.
Yeah, and check this out. So multiple cameras were rolling when a huge dust storm rolled over Las Vegas. Weather officials there say thunderstorms in Arizona pushed the dust storm to the Vegas Valley, and forecasters say the strongest winds from the storms blew over a dry lake bed, which is why Sin City got so much of that dust. Now, visibility was limited for hours, as well as the air quality, and there were flight cancellations and delays at Harry Reid International Airport. The effects lingered for a couple of days.
Yikes. We've been there in that region, Arizona, when that's went through.
Haboobs.
Haboob. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of fun to say.
Yeah.
All right. Talking about KHNL and your midday, there's going to be an Emmy Award show coming up, and just after Tamarind Hall at 2 o'clock. You can watch it live, or you can watch the tape version in primetime. But we have got a preview from NBC's Jennifer Bjorklund right now in your Good News Now.
You may have heard this term, peak TV, about the overwhelming number of TV shows and services out there these days.
The landscape of TV is so huge, it's really hard to contain it within the Emmys.
But they'll try tonight.
Sharks are coming.
HBO's Succession has the most nominations, 25, including Best Drama, which it won 2 years ago.
Emmy history will tell you that the show that won before is very likely to win again.
But the Apple TV Plus thriller Severance could be a spoiler, or Netflix's Squid Game, the first non-English language nominee for series honors.
People saying there's something wrong with us.
Ted Lasso looks to repeat as Best Comedy. Its rivals include Barry, Only Murders in the Building, and Abbott Elementary.
Ted Lasso was definitely the comedy of the moment last year, and it probably still is.
But the man of the moment is Kenan Thompson. The SNL veteran is tonight's Emmys host.
I'm not worried about anybody trying to slap me necessarily, unless it's like funny.
Laughs are expected, and maybe a few tears, as television honors its best.
Thompson's been on SNL for 19 years, and he has 6 Emmy nominations and 1 win of his own. In Los Angeles, Jennifer Bjorklund, NBC News.
Again, the live version coming up at 2, or you can watch it again in primetime. And got to give a shout out to everyone in the islands that worked on White Lotus as well. Nominated for a number of awards there on the Emmys. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, and because it's going to be at 2 o'clock, there won't be First at 4 today. So get your news on Hawaii News Now at 5.
Yeah, I'm going to watch the live version, I think. I'm actually going to get off a little early and get home and turn on KHNL, maybe catch Tamarind at 1 at her new time slot, and then the Emmys. What a fun afternoon of TV.
Oh, yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for This Is Now on this Monday. Oh, yeah, it's only Monday, guys. Got to remind you, we're podcasting all the time here at Hawaii News Now. Just search Hawaii News Now wherever you get those podcasts. And keep in mind the lineup change at KHNL. NBC News Daily on Before This Is Now, and then Tamarind Hall on at 1 p.m. So that's going to come your way every day from now on your weekdays. Have a good one.
See ya.